Hey, what is good, my fellow warriors of light? It is your host again, Lotus Moon, with another Mobius Final Fantasy video. So this video is going to be the second installment of my four-part video series talking about multiplayer roles. And in this video, we're going to be focusing on the support role, also known as the healer. So being a healer in the party is very important, obviously. And there's two basic functions you need to do as a healer, which is obviously keep your party alive with as full of health as you can heal them, and also to provide the party with buffs. So now there are many small details and intricacies in being a good healer though. And we're going to be going over that in this video, such as the turn order in which you should cast which buffs. And also, of course, which cards you should bring that people expect you to have as far as which, the buffs that you need to be bringing. To me, there is two required buffs, like absolutely necessary. And then there are several other, like, recommended buffs. So we're going to be talking about which cards have which buffs and some possible deck builds for you guys. And also which jobs would be good healers right now currently in our game. So let's get into some card builds. So this is pretty much my generic card build. This is a very solid deck. You won't have very much trouble keeping your party alive with this deck. And this has all the mandatory buffs as well as some of the recommended buffs I was talking about. Now, before we get into anything at all though, I want to address the elephant in the room. As a supporter, okay? There is one thing going on right now that's really annoying, but we have to talk about it, and that is the Supreme card, Aerith, okay? So if you're playing the support role, and if you have this Supreme card, Aerith, then that's awesome. This is basically the best card you can have as a supporter class in multiplayer. Everyone wants you to have this card. Believe me, if you have this card, it's going to make the party so smooth. Like, it is such a broken card for support class. Now, the problem with this, though, is I've been seeing an increase of people writing messages on the description of their party saying, Aerith is mandatory or disband. So this is ridiculous, okay? You do not have to have this card to be successful in multiplayer, even in 4-star battles, which are the hardest. You don't need to have this card. So guys, if you're asking for a healer, please don't just pay attention to people that have the Supreme card. It's not fair for the people who want to play a solid healer that don't have this card. This is a Supreme card. They're very hard to get, and you can't even get them right. You can't even get this right now. So this card's amazing. It provides Quicken, it gives you Rainbow Shift, it gives you all the good stuff. So obviously, if you have this card, bring it. But please, guys, if you're making parties and you don't be leaving out people that are legit that don't have this card. Okay, it's just not fair, and it doesn't even make sense. You don't have to have this. So with that said, that's out of the way. I don't have Aerith. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way now. But as far as mandatory buffs that you have to have for your party, the very first buff that comes to mind that every healer has to have is Haste, okay? Now, there are several cards that have Haste in this game, one of which is only available in the ability shop. And so first off, we're going to be talking about Hermes, okay? Hermes is definitely the best Haste card you can have. And the reason why I say this is because, as you can see here, there are several advantages to this card. For one, it only costs two life orbs. So it's definitely going to be the most efficient haste card in the game. But it also only has a three turn cooldown. And with this extra boon here, lasting boons, extra skill right there, this will give you 5 turns of haste for your party. So for 5 turns, you don't have to worry about recasting this, except on the 5th turn, you'd probably want to recast it. So now, this is like I said, this is, in my opinion, the best haste card in the game because this is the only one that will provide you or party with 100% uptime in battle. So that is very important to me, and the reason why haste is, in my opinion, the most important buff to bring for your party is because haste gives your party in multiplayer 1 extra action per turn. And in 3-star and 4-star multiplayer battles, your base turns is only 2 actions, right? You only have 2 actions per turn normally. So with this, you'll get 3 actions per turn. So think of it like this. If you do not have haste and you don't haste your party, for every 2 turns your party does not have haste, that is the equivalent of losing 1 full turn. And that's crazy because, you know, as the healer, you're trying to keep the party alive. So obviously, the more turns your party has to defeat the Sicarius, that gives the Sicarius less chance in turn to damage your party. So this in itself will pay off in the long run. It'll be great for the party. This is absolutely mandatory. Please do not play multiplayer healer if you don't have a haste card. Now it does not have to be Hermes. There are other options. This is just the only one available in the ability shop. So if you don't have it yet, you can buy it in the ability shop. It's kind of expensive. I think it's like 43 ability tickets, but it is definitely worth it, and it's still rated like 93 in Japan. So even in single player, Hermes is a fantastic card. So let's keep moving along here. There are other cards you can use that will provide you haste in this game, but they're not available right now. Most of them have been like event cards. So the first one, our most recent one we've gotten, I guess, will be Cindy from Final Fantasy 15 event. Now this is a great card. I hope everyone watching this video got this card. This was a free card given out to all players that logged in during the event period. And this is a fantastic card that was just given out for free. I'm very happy about this. So this card here gives you haste and barrier. And I'm going to be talking more about barrier in a minute, but barrier is the other buff that I was talking about that is mandatory. Okay, if you're going to play a support role in multiplayer, haste and barrier are the 2 mandatory buffs that you have to bring. Like, there's no question about it. But getting back to the haste aspect of this, this card here provides 2 turns of haste by itself. But this card is very unique in that it has 2 extra skills of lasting boons, which is fantastic. So with these 2 extra skills of lasting boons, that increases the haste and barrier to 4 turns of haste and barrier. So as you can see here, this costs 3 orbs and has 4 turn cooldown. So because this has a 4 turn cooldown and this provides you 4 turns of haste, it is very good. Now it's not 100% uptime like I was talking about. Hermes is the only card that will give you 100% uptime of haste, but this is probably second best. So think of it like this: the turn you cast this is the first of the 4 turns that's going to be active. But that turn does not count because your party did not benefit from getting an extra action. So the following 3 turns, your party will benefit, right? So the second turn, the third turn, and the 4th turn, you will have haste. On the 5th turn, the haste will fall off and the party will not benefit from having haste because you have to recast it. So basically, you'll have 3 turns of haste, and every 4th turn you'll have to recast this. So that's pretty good though. That's not bad at all. It's like 75% uptime on Cindy. So let's get on to another card that has haste. Now this is a card that we got recently also. It was first released in the Final Fantasy Record Keeper first batches, and it was re-released recently. Now Aerith and Tifa is a very good card. The only problem with it right now is I would not use it currently in our multiplayer as a 4-star. Now we cannot 5-star card this. We cannot 5-star this card yet. Very soon we will be able to. We have to have 4-star Sicarius Ultima to be able to augment this to a 5 stars. But once this is augmentable to 5 stars, it is a very strong card. It gives you, of course, faith and haste, and we're talking about haste. So this is gonna be very good. It does have 1 lasting boons, so it's gonna give you 3 turns of haste. Now, the reason why I don't recommend this card at 4-star right now is because it has a cooldown of 4, and with only a 3 turn of haste, that means it's only a 50% uptime, right? Because the turn you cast it, you're not going to benefit, but then the next 2 turns you will, and then it's going to fall off, and then the next turn you can finally recast it again. So it's a slow card. It's only going to give you 50% uptime with haste. Once it's 5-starable, the cooldown will be reduced to 3 turns. So that is reasonable. I can live with a 3-turn cooldown with 3 turns of haste, because that's still like a 75% uptime. So once this card is 5-starable, I do recommend this card. It's a good card. You just have to rearrange your deck with the Faith otherwise, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The other advantage of this card is it has some very good standard auto abilities. This is going to reduce your damage from Sicarius types by 15%. That is a pretty good chunk of reduction, and it also comes standard with a job change recast. So, and I'm going to be talking about which auto abilities you should probably be having on your cards a little bit later in this video. But the Aerith and Tifa, very strong card also, especially at 5 stars. Now, most people, I don't know, some people have this card. It was from the Final Fantasy X event. It's YRP. It does have haste as well as snipe and brave. So this is kind of like the same issue, the same problem though. This is a 4-star fast learner, so it means we cannot augment this. So this is forever stuck at 4 turns cooldown. And for haste, it's not, in my opinion, it's not good enough. It's gotta be 50% uptime. So it's not. This is a good card, but I would not bring this card anymore into multiplayer. There's just better options. So it's decent, but not really recommended. And there's one more card we got that have haste. It was from the Final Fantasy VII Remake event. This guy Wedge here. Now Wedge just comes with Drain and Haste. Same problem. It's a 4-star fast learner. It has 4 turns of cooldown, and which means you're only gonna get 50% uptime haste. It's not recommended because Drain as the added effect is not very good in multiplayer. Okay, let's just get one thing straight. If you bring Drain or a Drain effect to multiplayer, really the only role that's gonna take some advantage of that will be the Breaker, because the Breaker is gonna be doing basic attacks. But it's not very high, it's not too much of a heal. It's not really worth it. So if you have Wedge, don't even bother bringing it to multiplayer. It's just not good enough. So that takes care of the haste. Now let's talk about Barrier. Now Barrier is the second mandatory buff that you should bring into multiplayer. Just because it's a damage reduction, and you know, as a healer, you want to be keeping your party alive, especially your breakers. You know, breakers are very squishy, especially assassins. So you definitely want to bring that. So let's talk about this card right here, Fat Chocobo. Now, Fat Chocobo has been a staple for a very long time. It adds Barrier. This is gonna obviously give you 100% uptime of Barrier. Now, Barrier is not as important to have 100% uptime on. It is a very good card though. This is a very strong card too, and I still use it because of its efficiency, right? Being a healer and having access to life orbs at all times is very important as the healer, because if you run out of life orbs and your party gets hit hard, the next turn you won't have any to heal them with. So being that this card is very efficient on only 2 life orbs and only has 3 turns cooldown, it makes it very efficient. Especially since also, I forgot to mention, but any of these cards that have extra life will also make it more efficient, because this will refund you 1 life orb that you spent. So in reality, this card only costs you 1 life orb for 5 turns of Barrier. So this is an incredible job, guys. I mean, an incredible card. It's just that right now we have a lot of good options that have Barrier on them as an additional buff. So let's talk about those in a second. Now, there is one extra skill I want to talk about and get it out of the way, because I see a lot of misconception with this extra skill, and that is this one right here, Boon, Duration Boon. Now, Duration Boon, let me get one thing straight with you guys. This only affects you. It does not affect the party, okay? So please, if you're our support class, don't assume that this is going to increase your whole party's boon durations that they have currently active. No. That is not the case. It only affects your buffs. This one here, Lasting Boon, affects the base duration of the card, and that's why it affects your party. So this one here is the good one. The Lasting Boons is the one you want the most, because that's gonna give the whole party a longer buff on this card, on any card that has it. But this one here, Duration Boon, only affects you. So let's just get that out of the way right now. So as far as other cards with barrier goes, I'm gonna talk about probably the best one. Now, I do not have this card right now. I tried pulling for it, did not have success, unfortunately. And that is Hell's Gate. Okay, Hell's Gate is an amazing support card. I don't have it yet. If you guys are watching this video, know that this will come into the ability shop eventually. Right now, it's in early access only. So if you have this card, consider yourself lucky. It's kind of hard to get, but get it up to 5-star as soon as possible, because that's going to reduce the cooldown. I wouldn't use this card at 3-star. It's just not, the cooldown's terrible on it otherwise. But this is an amazing card. It applies barrier, wall, and regeneration. So like I said, barrier is pretty much a mandatory effect for a buff for being a healer. And wall and regeneration are both very strong. Wall, in my opinion, I recommend wall. I think it's one, it's a recommended buff, and I'll get into wall more in a minute. But this is a very strong card. If you have this card, I would go ahead and use this as your main use of barrier. Okay. Now I still like Fat Chocobo, but honestly, it's kind of been replaced in my mind by other cards. So like I said, it's iffy. It's if you have a 5-star Chocobo, that's great. I wouldn't really. Well, you can still 5-star it if you like, if you want to spend the Grow Stars, but I wouldn't really recommend spending Grow Stars on it anymore, simply because of Hell's Gate. Now, there's another cards that have barrier that I do have. Again, we're going to talk about Cindy here. So Cindy, like I said, this is the free card we got, and it comes with both haste and barrier. So this is great. In the future, we want to have more cards that combine buffs like this, because this is going to save us room in our deck. So this has haste and barrier. So if you run this card, this is a very strong card. Like I said, it has like a 75% uptime of haste, which is good enough. And so I have this build here that does use Cindy instead of Fat Chocobo and Hermes. And it's a very solid deck also. I'm using the extra spot for Regalia. I'll talk about Quicken in a second, but it's also a pretty good card to bring into multiplayer. So what else has barrier? So Tyro. Tyro also has barrier and wall. It's a pretty good card, don't get me wrong, but Hell's Gate is better. Okay, so if you have Tyro 4-star or 5-star, it's decent. You can use it. It's a good card, but I would recommend more Hell's Gate. Let's see here. Any more that come with barrier? Well, most people don't have this card, and it's Machina and Rem. This card has barrier and drain, and like I mentioned earlier, drain is not the best for multiplayer. But this is actually a pretty strong card because it does have 100% uptime of barrier. And it does provide Veil for you, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it's okay. It does have a lot of extra healing. I've used this card before, and it's not the worst. It's definitely decent, but I know most people don't have it, so that doesn't even really matter, honestly. So those are pretty much your main cards with barrier, I would say, in the game right now. Of course, the gold Chocobo came with barrier, but I still have that just for the laughs. Okay, so we kind of talked about in my opinion, the two mandatory buffs in the game, right? For being a healer. Now let's talk about the recommended ones. Okay, now next one that comes to mind, I feel like most healers should bring is Faith. Okay, Magic Up. Now the reason why I recommend that healers bring this is because a lot of times your attacker is not going to bring it for several reasons. One, they're using the extra card slot for like a card like Berserk, which I know I do. I personally bring Berserk because it's going to increase my damage. And I know that a lot of healers bring Faith. So I'm really depending that my support is going to increase my magic at the right time. So timing of Faith is very important. So I would save, try to use this kind of card here. Knights It Around is a very strong card. I recommend this card for you guys as a healer. This is a very good buff, but you want to time it correctly, okay? I would not cast this before Faith, before Haste or Barrier, okay? Try to get your party with Barrier and Haste right away, and then see how your party is doing, right? Now, you could have a really pro team that first turn you put Haste on, and they're almost about to break the enemy. I've seen that happen, especially with Supreme cards. So on your second turn, be sure to give your attacker increased magic, the Faith buff, on the turn that they're going to attack, okay? So just keep an eye on your attacker, see what they're doing, see what the party is doing. If the party is struggling, be sure to put your Barrier and your Haste first, and then you can cast this later. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to increasing your magic, watch what the party's doing, okay? Like, I've had some turns that the turn I know I'm going to be attacking the boss because they're about to be broken, our healer just put, like, wall or barrier. Like, that doesn't make sense, because if we're about to break the enemy, why are you giving us wall or barrier? Because the boss is going to be broken, they're probably going to be killed the next turn, so the boss is not going to be attacking us. So just be a smart healer, okay? Don't just be like in a rhythm. Don't just say, okay, this and this and this. No. Watch what the party's doing and react accordingly, okay? So as far as the Faith buff, Knights It Around is probably going to be the best in my opinion, so be sure to get that. Knights It Around is now available in the ability shop. So go ahead and purchase Knights It Around. It's worth your grow stars, believe me. It's like a 96. It's like a 96 out of 100 rating in Japan. And this card is going to be fantastic forever. So definitely grab this card in the ability shop if you haven't already. Another card that you can get that has Faith will be, of course, Moogle. Now, I haven't bothered leveling up my Moogle at all because I didn't really want to use the grow stars on this card, because grow stars are very hard to get in this game, and there's more important cards to use it on. So if you have a Moogle that's already 5-star, it's a good card. You can still use it. It's still a good card, don't get me wrong, because it's very efficient. So that's all I want to talk about that. Now, of course, Aerith and Tifa also has Faith. So when you're building your deck, keep in mind what cards have which abilities, right? Like, if I'm going to use Aerith and Tifa, there's no use for me to bring Cindy, because this already has Haste, right? So, I mean, you could double up on Haste to keep 100% uptime, but it's not really recommended in my opinion. So don't try to double up on the same abilities. So the last ability I want to say it's recommended, I would say that healers should probably have, is Wall. Okay, the effect of Wall is very strong. In my case, I'm using Luna Freya from the Final Fantasy 15 event. Now, this card, I know most people don't have this card because you had to try to summon for this, and it was a little bit hard to get. But if you have this card, it's a very strong card for Wall. Okay, this removes all ailments, gives you resistance to all elements, adds Wall, and it also gives you Snipe, which is really good. And the good thing about this Snipe is it gives you always a 4-turn Snipe. So a 4-turn Snipe is amazing. So giving your party Snipe and Wall is very, very good. Now, talking about Wall, you want to use your Wall smart, okay? So when you're a healer, don't just cast Wall for the sake of casting it. You have to observe your enemy, okay? When the Sicarius is charging up for an ultimate, that is the turn you want to cast Wall on your party to keep them alive, okay? So it'll always let you know when the Sicarius is charging up for an ultimate. It's very obvious. They're doing some kind of special animation. It gives you some special text, like Shiva's like, it'll say a message like the air turns cold, and you'll see them kind of strike a pose, right? That is the turn you want to cast Wall on your party to try to keep your party alive, because some squishier type jobs like assassin will definitely, they could definitely die from the ultimate. So I really do recommend Wall as a supporter. Now Lunafreya is a very good card with Wall. Of course, we already talked about Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate has Wall also. So if you have Hell's Gate, you don't have to worry about bringing Lunafreya or Fat Chocobo. You can have the combination of the two of them. It's very good. Now, as far as just the Wall card, the Alexander, this card is honestly, in my opinion, it's outdated. Okay, it's still a nice card. If you have it already 5-starred, you know it's not garbage. But please, if you don't have this card 4 or 5-star yet, do not use your growth stars on it. Okay, it is a waste of your growth stars. Okay, Wall. There's so many good cards that have Wall now. So just wait for Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate is gonna be a much better Wall. Same thing with Lunafreya. Well, Lunafreya only gives you 2 turn of Wall, but Wall is only important for like protecting your party from the ultimate. So it doesn't really matter the uptime, because Wall is gonna most likely fall off from the damage. So Alexander, I wouldn't even roll. The rating on Japan is terrible too. So don't even. It's like 70 or 75 out of 100. So don't even bother with Alexander anymore. So let's talk about a few other buffs you can bring, I guess. Now regeneration has always been a decent effect for the party. Same thing with Carbuncle. Do not waste your growth stars on this card anymore. This card is outdated. Regeneration is a good effect, but there are other cards that give it now. In fact, right now we have the Terra Battle event. That Echo card has regeneration on it, and also gives Berserk. So that's also a decent card if you want regeneration. So those are pretty much all the mandatory and recommended buffs. Now let's talk about Quicken. Quicken is a very, very strong card in multiplayer, especially for the healer to bring, because that's going to give your whole party like a boost in actions. It's going to give you like a surge in actions. You guys can really take advantage of that. The problem with this card though is a lot of healers don't know how to use it correctly. You need to time your Quicken correctly. That's the most important thing about this card. Look how many turns your party currently has. If your party has already a lot of actions, then don't use this card. Just wait until they're depleted. Or like if you're not using Hermes and you're using a card that don't have 100% uptime of haste, then don't cast this card, because the extra actions are going to be lost as soon as haste falls off. So it's very important to keep an eye on those kind of things. Now, I recommend only casting a card that has Quicken when your party has haste, because the Quicken ability is going to give you even more actions when your party has haste versus if it doesn't have haste. So I've seen some support class cast Regalia, and we don't even have haste. That doesn't make sense to me. We need haste first, and then you can give us Quicken, which will give us even additional turns. I think this card gives us 3 turns of extra actions by itself. But if your party have haste, it gives you 5 actions. So that's why this is much better if your party has haste. So always do haste first, and then you can cast Regalia later. Now, as far as Quicken, Regalia is good right now because we don't have anything else really besides Aerith that gives Quicken. But there are some very good cards coming in the future that's going to give us Quicken, and I just want to kind of share those with you really quick. So, of course, Aerith, the Aerith Supreme card has Quicken. So if you have Aerith, you don't need to bring Regalia, obviously. But there is one card I've been waiting for in this game a while, and it's going to be very good once we get it. It's going to replace Regalia for sure. It's this one right here, Live in Palamecia. So Live in Palamecia also has Quicken, except it's a much higher rated card. For one thing, it can be 5 stars, so that's already better. The fact that Regalia is stuck at 4 stars as a fast learner is kind of bad. But we don't have anything better in global right now. But once we get this card here, Live in Palamecia, it's gonna be a very good card for Quicken. As you can see here, it's rated 95 of 100. It looks really cool, And it's besides Quicken, it's also going to give you 4 elementals, random elements. So that's another plus of this card. And the fact that it's 5-starable, it has very good extra abilities. It has only a 3-turn recast, which is good. And it has some very strong auto abilities. Let's see here. You see, this card also has increased recovery element appearance, so it gives you higher chance to draw life orbs, and also has a elemental recovery starter. So that means it's gonna start you to battle with one life element. So this is gonna be a very good card once we get it. I don't know when we're gonna get it in global, but keep an eye on this card. It's coming in the near future, and it's gonna be very strong. So that's pretty much it for Quicken. Use Regalia if, like, for me, if I'm kind of been toying with these 2 builds here. I do really like this basic build because having access to 100% uptime of Haste is really good. But if you're using something like Cindy, that gives you access to another free spot, which in my case, Regalia is perfect. It's gonna give you Quicken, and it's a very good card. So. Okay, guys, so that pretty much covers the cards in the game I would recommend bringing as a healer. I may have not talked about some of them. If I didn't, they're not really too important. I've talked about basically the most important healing cards. I guess really quick I could mention there is some cards like just pure out restore HPs. They're still okay. I don't really recommend them anymore because they're just not... They just don't do anything else except heal your party. I used to use this card... because it's a strong heal effect, and a lot of times when your party gets hit for a lot of damage, the smaller buffs won't heal your party for as much. But this one does heal your party for a lot. You can bring something like this if you don't have anything else, but it's not really recommended. You always want to bring a card that has a buff. Now, I've seen some healers bring boosts. It's not... Like I said, it's not really a recommended one. If you're really... Your breakers should be bringing this card already on their own. Plus, also, if you're using Knights of the Round is also going to give your party boost. So there's no reason... I wouldn't really say bring this card. It's not really worth it. So now, there is different builds you might want to consider when making your healer. There are some dedicated heal builds, and then there's some other more concentrated on defensive builds. So when I talk about having either like an attacker build or like a defensive build, now it depends on how the party's structured. So that's another thing you want to keep an eye on. I personally like the basic structure of having one of each role, like, you know, one healer, one attacker, one breaker, one defender. But sometimes you'll see people make parties with 2 attackers and only 1 healer and 1 breaker. Now, if you're in a party like that, you want to definitely focus more on a defensive build, because you need to keep the party alive. And when when you have 2 attackers, it's gonna put more strain for you as the healer. So you definitely want to bring stuff like wall. Also, in some cases, if you're playing like a lower Sicarius level, like a 3-star or 2-star, you can always bring, like, let's say instead of Regalia, you can help out the team with some break damage if you like, by bringing like something like this. This will help give your party defense, lower defense against break, and give nice break power. I've seen some healers do that. This is okay, but honestly, for a 4-star Sicarius, I would recommend a full healer build. Okay, I honestly, most people prefer a 100% healer build, because that's really what your job is. So I would kind of stay away from those kind of builds. Now, let's talk about the weapons for different healers. So let's look over the list of different support roles in this game. So in this game we have right now currently have White Mage, Red Mage, the Devote Mage, We have the Dancer, and that's it for supports. Now we have more coming, as you can see here. We're gonna eventually get this one's gonna be coming soon. The Strategist, and also this should be coming. Well, hope will be coming later with the Final Fantasy 13 remake event, or not remake, but the Final Fantasy 13 event's gonna be really strong. This one here is coming soon. Also, Bard's gonna be a very strong healer, very strong support class. So look forward to Bard and Strategist very soon. Now, if you have Red Mage, it is a support class, but I do not recommend it. It's very weak. It has super low HP. And this one here, as you can see here, it's rated 80 and 80. This is already with the freaking Hall of Fame, so even after Hall of Fame, it does get better, but it's not. It's still one of the. It's pretty much the worst healer in the game. So if you want to play support, I don't recommend Red Mage at all. White Mage is very strong. It's one of our best healers in the game currently, and even in the future. It has a very good ultimate that will heal your party. So White Mage is always going to be a very good choice. My personal favorite and what I think is the very best is going to be Dancer right now. I like Dancer as the best healer right now in the game because for two reasons. For one, its ultimate is amazing for keeping life orbs available. So its ultimate is going to give you Prismatic Shift. So it's going to turn all your orbs. It's going to give you full orbs of Prismatic Orbs. And with Prismatic Orbs, you can easily keep your party fully buffed at all times, never running out of life orbs. So those are always that's a very strong ultimate to have. Another reason why I like this is because the ultimate also has high break. So you can help the party out, lower the red gauge. So try to time your ultimate in a useful way that you can also be useful as a support breaker to break the enemy's red gauge to help the party move along faster. So as a dancer, that has some really good benefits to it. So anyway, let's talk about the Devote Mage. Devote Mage is also very good, but honestly, the Dancer and the White Mage are both better than the Devote Mage because the ultimate does have very high break. So if you're the Devote Mage, please save your ultimate when the enemy's yellow gauge is already low. That way you can break the enemies. You can help break the enemies. But it doesn't have a heal ultimate and doesn't give you Prismatic Shift, so it's a little bit weaker in my opinion. So those are pretty much the only ones we have available at this time. So like I said, my favorite is definitely the Dancer, followed by the White Mage. So for a weapon for Dancer, this weapon right here comes off of the Rogue. So if you have a Rogue, this is a very strong weapon for you. It's going to have, most importantly, the Prismatic Draw. And that's one thing you want to look for in a weapon. Something that has Prismatic Draw is going to give you access to Prismatic Orbs, which you can use as life orbs. Also, this weapon has Ultimate Charger. And Ultimate Charger will help you get to your ultimate faster. Because, like I said, especially as the Dancer, your ultimate's very strong to get you Prismatic Orbs and also to help break. So the faster you can get to it, the more helpful you can be as a supporter. Painful Break doesn't really matter, so let's just skip that. It's not a support rule type effect. There are some weapons that give you life draw that are decent. You can use them. They're not the best, but they are decent. Now Next Sicarius, we're going to get a very important weapon for support class. It's going to be this one right here. So this one's called the Dominion Axe, and it's going to be a multiplayer weapon, just like how we got the Astro Wand and the Duran with our one. This is going to be a very good support weapon. So it's coming very soon. It's a double A weapon, and just like the other ones, this is going to give you Prismatic Shift, but the Rainbow Appearance, also 10% HP, and also it's every third strike you can get up to 4 elemental orbs, and it also increases your ultimate. So this is a very strong weapon for your Dancer type healers. Okay. Now for your mage type healers, and I have a devote mage just sitting here. This wand right here with the Austro wand we got from multiplayer is very strong. Like I just mentioned, it's gonna give you that prismatic draw, and it's also gonna give you that extra HP, which is very important as a healer. The third elemental strike, it's a decent ability. I'd rather have ultimate charger, to be honest with you, but the fact that this gives you prismatic draw and HP up plus, this is a very strong weapon for a support role. So now, I think that's about all I want to talk about for our weapons. Now I want to talk about auto abilities. So which auto abilities you should put on your cards, because the auto abilities on your cards is extremely important. Some of the best auto abilities is going to be the very most important one to me is the job change recast as the support role. Now, job change recast, you can get these from fractals. I would try to get these as much as you can on your cards. This is going to be a big help for you to give you extra actions. Another good, any cards that have life draw obviously is going to be good. And the good thing about Cindy is it has life elemental starter +1, so you're gonna start the battle with 1 life orb. And same thing with Luna Freya. Luna Freya is also gonna give you that life starter, which is gonna start the battle with 1 life orb, and also comes standard with job change recast. Same thing with Regalia. Regalia is also gonna give you that elemental life starter. So with those 3 cards here, as you can see here, you're gonna start the battle with 3 life orbs, which means you can cast Cindy turn 1 100% of the time, which is really strong. And like I said, Regalia also has a job change recast. So some other good effects to bring for multiplayer, as far as besides job change recast, is gonna be ultimate charger. So let's find a card that has it. I know I have some cards that have it. So like this one right here, auto charger ultimate +1. This is a very good effect also. It's gonna get you quicker to your ultimate. And this one also has like life draw. So any extra abilities like life draw or auto charger ultimate is good. But like I said, the most important is gonna probably be the job change recast. Another good one to have on your cards as a healer will be extra HP. So as you can see on my Luna Freya has 3% HP up. That is also a good. It's always a good extra auto ability to have on your cards. But like I said, the most important is gonna be your job change recast. So try to get that on all your cards if you can, and then try to get other abilities like HP up or life elemental starter up or ultimate charger is really good. So those are the kind of extra abilities you want to be looking for on your cards. So like this one here, I have a job change recast and then life draw. So when you're putting fractals on your support cards, keep an eye on that. Now my Regalia, if you noticed, I did have break power up on it, and that is because I use this also for my breaker. This is not a very good auto ability for a support class, but I have this on my breaker also, which is good. So another thing when you're a supporter in multiplayer, one thing you really want to focus on is driving away orbs that you don't need to make room for more life orbs. And this is also going to help increase your ultimate gauge. So the more you drive away orbs you don't need, that's going to help you make space for life orbs. So you always want to try to go first, usually in the battle. Okay, so now I'm going to take this opportunity to show you a pre-recorded video I have and kind of show you like the flow of the battle as a support class. I'm just going to go ahead and lower the volume all the way on this because so it doesn't interfere with the recording volume. So as you can see here, I'm using my dancer, and the very first thing I'm going to do is cast Haste and then drive away the orbs I don't need. So look at my action queue. I'm casting haste. I'm driving away unused orbs because I want to make room up on top here. I want to make room for more life orbs next turn. So as the support class, you want to try to go first as much as you can. Because people are sometimes impatient, try to queue up your actions very fast. Okay, you don't want to keep people waiting for you too long because they might try to go in front of you. And remember, your healer, you want to have access to life orbs, so you want to be driving away the orbs you don't need. Now, your other teammates should be considerate of this and try to wait for you to go first. Now, as you can see here, my attacker went first. That is also okay, in my opinion, because look what my attacker is doing. He's casting a spell, probably something to break the enemy's yellow gauge, and then he's driving away the orbs he don't need. So the fact that my attacker is not using any basic attacks, that is okay because I'm not going to be getting any orb generation from him. So if you're an attacker, if you watch my attacker video, I recommended that you go second because you always want to let your healer go first. That is mostly true unless you don't have any auto abilities, any basic attacks to be doing. So a lot of times as the attacker, you need orbs also. So you can go first also. You just have to watch what your attacker and healer are doing. But definitely the healer and the attacker need to go first and second. It doesn't really matter the order too much. It's probably better that your healer goes first, like I said. But if your attacker goes first, it's not the worst because then a lot of times they don't have basic attacks to do, which wouldn't affect your life orb draw anyway. So let's just watch this again here. I'm queuing up haste. I'm driving away my orbs, and then I'm going second, which is fine. And then my defender and my breaker are going last. So their basic attacks can help regenerate my orbs, my life orbs. So there you go, I gave my party haste, and then I drove away my orbs. My breaker is doing a really good job getting the yellow and red gauge down. So second turn here, I noticed our party took a pretty big hit. But I only have 3 life orbs. So in this case here, I don't want to be casting Ultimate Boon because I don't think for sure, I know for sure we're not going to be doing the damage next turn because look at what my attacker is doing. My attacker is doing the same thing. He's using something to help break the yellow gauge, and then he's driving and then passing. So I know he's not going to be doing damage this turn. So this turn I want to try to heal my party. So I'm going to cast Barrier next. I'm going to cast the Fat Chocobo, so that my party can have a barrier, and also I can heal them for some. And of course, I'm going to drive away the orbs I don't need. Here, I'm just checking out their cards a little bit. So as you can see here, it's great. That's why you always want to go first or second as the healer, because look how many life orbs I was able to get off of my teammates. Now, if I went last, I wouldn't be able to get all those life orbs. So now I have access to 6 life orbs. So looking at this turn, this is a very important turn. I went ahead and queued up already Ultimate Boon, as you can see here, because I know for sure my attacker is going to be attacking this turn, most likely, and I'm gonna wait until he queues up what he has to make sure that he's gonna cast his spells. But I need to go first. So a lot of times you want to use. Now, I don't know why he did this. He just kind of casted one spell and then passed. He should have waited for his breaker probably to see if he can break it. But I'm gonna go ahead and cast Ultimate Boon also. I could have casted also my Cindy. But I felt that wall would have been a waste here because this turn I have a feeling for sure that the boss is gonna be broken. So if I casted Cindy at this turn, it has a 4-turn cooldown, and that means I would have to wait a while to recast it. And I think next turn the enemy's gonna be broken, which means he will not be attacking us, which means that is a whole turn of wall wasted. So I just went ahead and cast Ultimate Boon. And it looks like my attacker used Great Gospel. So here we go. Just like I thought, the boss is broken. So this turn, I'm just going to be like I said, you know, I'm just going to be recasting Haste, and also going to be driving away some orbs. And now, you can also help the party do some basic attacks to help regenerate some orbs. So in this case, I do not want to go first. I want my attacker to go first because I want to try to replenish some of his life orbs, right? I mean, not life orbs, but some of his elemental orbs. So I want my attacker to go first because haste doesn't matter. I don't need to give him haste first because I already used ultimate boon, so I know he has magic up. So I want my attacker to go first so that some of my basic attacks here that I have queued up was going to help regenerate his elemental orbs. So I'm going to kind of wait a little bit and now I'll go. It's fine. I end up going third. It's perfectly fine. I have a lot of life orbs in stock and I want to try to help replenish the orbs of my attacker. But it didn't even matter in the end because he ended up killing it, so. Also, one thing I want to mention, use your stickers wisely. Let your party know when you're going to buff them or heal them. That's why I have on my healer build here, I have I'll buff, I'll heal, I'll go first. Those are some stickers you definitely want to bring as a support class. Especially I'll go first. A lot of people don't realize that a support should go first. So telling the party that I'm going to go first and that I'm going to buff you is a good indication that they know to let you go first. That way you'll give them the buff. So here again, in this case, I'm gonna be driving away my extra orbs. I'm gonna be recasting Haste most likely here. Yes, I'm recasting Haste. I'm not gonna. Looks like I'm gonna recast also Barrier. It's fine. Yeah, I think I changed my mind because I realized that I wanted to. You see, our party's pretty much at full health, and we still had 3 turns of no. I think we still had 2. Yeah, we still have 2 or 3 turns left of Barrier. So I figured I'll wait until the turn after. That way I can heal them at the same time. And I'm also cleaning up some basic attacks to try to replenish my attacker with some orbs. Okay, so like I said, you know, I knew our party was gonna take some damage that turn, so I waited on my fat chocobo, and I'm here. I'm also casting looks like I'm casting Cindy just because I want to give my party the snipe, and then I'm gonna use my ultimate here because you see how the boss anima here has all full red bar. I can help the party. I can help my breaker and my party break faster because I know I have a strong break ultimate. And the same thing for your devote mages out there. If you're playing devote mage, your ultimate has a very strong break effect. So try to save it when you see a full red bar like this. You can help them break faster. So I see my attacker is queuing up all his attack spells. So that's why I wanted to try to go first to give him a buff. So as you can see there, it's a very strong break I have on my on the ultimate. It just broke Anima there. And our attacker is doing a good job spreading his damage. As you can see here, he pretty much almost killed Anima on that one on the first turn there. It's pretty good. So here we go. It's pretty much the end of the battle here. The attacker's gonna finish this up, kill Guardian A, finish off Anima. It doesn't really matter what I do here, but as you can see, I do have full prismatic orbs, so I can pretty much keep casting keep casting all the buffs I would need for the rest of the battle if this ended up being a longer battle. But this was a really good party, so it made my job a lot easier. But I was just trying to give you kind of like an idea of how the flow should go, what you want to be looking for. So hopefully that video helped a little bit. It's kind of hard to show all the examples because there's so many situations what your party could be doing. So anyway, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about as the support role. I know this was a long video. I'm sorry. I wanted to keep it shorter, but there's just so many cards to talk about and a lot of different things to mention. So hopefully I covered everything in this video for you guys. I hope this kind of makes sense for you and gives you a good idea of what to look for when you're building your support class. So this has been Lotus Moon. Like and subscribe if this has been helpful. I'm going to be doing the breaker role next and then finally Defender. So look forward to those videos in the future. And as always, have a great time in Mobius, and I'll see you in the next video.